The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff and management of WWDB-TV. Hot topics, food, fun, entertainment, and serious business. Live Las Vegas with Rikki Cheese.
We are so glad you joined us here on Live Las Vegas with Rikki Cheese. This is, for me, one of the most important seasons ever, because it's your chance, all of our chances, to get out and make a difference, not just in our community, but in our country. Joining us now to talk about early voting, what's going on in Clark County, is the Clark County Registrar of Voters, Joe P. Gloria.
Thank you so much for having me on today. I've been excited about being here.
Thank you so much for coming down. We were talking right before the show, and I tried to stay off my soapbox as much as possible, but you guys who watch the show regularly know that I can't do it. You know, I can't help it. There is no excuse. Early voting started on Saturday, May 26th.
26th.
Right. And when this show airs, you'll still have an entire week to go buy laundry detergent, eggs, bread, and vote. At the grocery store, there are polling places, big changes that are being made now to make it so easy to take up your civic duty and make a difference and make your vote count. What is the biggest change when it's come to early voting?
Well, with early voting, we have more opportunities for people to get out and vote. Also, we have new equipment that we're implementing this year with the new electronic poll book and also the new voting system.
Tell us about that.
Well, we're excited about the implementation. The technology was necessary. The old system was starting to show its age. So there's more security involved with the new system and more administrative tools available to the election department to help us better serve the voters. So it's a big improvement, and we're very excited about rolling it out.
Anybody who has any questions about the elections or anything, the Clark County Department, your website has everything that you could ever want when it comes to the information that you need. If somebody has not registered to vote, can they do so at a polling place?
Well, they can register to vote, but they won't be eligible for this election.
Okay.
You have to be registered already. The deadline passed on the 24th of May for online registration. Nevertheless, you should register so that you're ready for the general election. We're prepared to do that at all of the polling places. But all of that information on the website, I appreciate you promoting that.
Yeah.
There's a wealth of information. We try to keep it updated. You can always check your information on the website through Registered Voter Services. You just have to log on. You can see the early voting schedule, request a mail ballot, log on for an e-sample ballot to save paper and get it electronically. Your sample ballot would come to you a week earlier than most people get it when you log on for an e-sample ballot. So it's a great way to get the information out to the voters.
I didn't realize until I saw your website how expensive it is if you're mailing out ballots as opposed to doing it electronically. Yeah, you want people to, if you use your email for everything else, which you do it for this as well. I mean, save a tree and save a whole lot of money for the county.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's the same information, and as I said, you get it earlier. So there's an advantage there. There's a lot of work involved with supporting that, but we're very happy that it was implemented, and it's been a success. We hope that it continues to grow.
71%, more than 70% of Nevada's population lives in Clark County?
That's correct. The majority of voters are in Clark County, so we serve the majority of all active voters here.
Yeah. How many people are there out there who are right now eligible to vote?
Eligible to vote? Approximately, I don't have that number in my head, but I can tell you that we're just under 1 million people who are actively registered, and if you take the inactive voters who are still eligible to vote, it's closer to 1.1 million. So there are quite a few people who are registered, and that's why early voting is such a big deal, because we're able to serve the voters very economically through the early voting period. I can use 500 machines to serve. We'll probably get over 100,000 people who will vote early.
Wow.
Whereas if I serve them on election day, I would need thousands of machines to do that. So early voting is good for the taxpayer. It's good for the voter because it provides more access, allowing them to pick a date and a time that's convenient for them to get out and vote.
Tell me about your history with the Clark County election system. So you've been doing this for almost 2 decades. I grew up with Mr. Lomax, who was going on to, national things now.
He's in the sunset.
He's in the sunset. But now you are already the voice and the active person behind the scenes for 18 years.
I've actually been with the election department since 1995.
95, okay.
I started off as a voting machine technician, which makes me pretty familiar with the systems and able to deal with issues as far down to the machine level more than most registrars have the capability of doing. I started under Catherine Ferguson, and of course the legacy of Mr. Lomax. He did a great job and laid a foundation. I stand on the shoulders of giants, so we're just trying to continue the service that they've provided and continue to provide more access. That's our goal.
That's one of the things that I was very grateful for. Dan Kulan from the county set up this interview because I wasn't sure. I thought, well, when Lomax retired, who's going to take his place? Is it going to be somebody who is as accessible as a member of the media? He was always out there. But the press release came out, it's like, well, he's going to be available for interviews on the first day of early voting. I thought, this is fantastic. Can he be on my show? Let's talk about this. What made you decide to even get into the business of elections?
Well, I certainly wasn't dreaming of being an election official when I was in high school. Right. Most election officials, when you speak to them about their how they got into elections, they just kind of fall into it. But it's something that's contagious, and once you get involved with elections and serving the public, there's a definite rush with doing all the work, and then on election night standing back and seeing the success of so many things that are out of your control and coordinating that effort. So it's a rush for me, and I've always enjoyed doing it.
Have you ever thought of running for office yourself?
No, I'm very happy on
Why
my
is
side.
that?
No, I'm not a politician. I'm happy being a public servant in the position that I'm in.
Right. What are some of the biggest trends that you've seen in your time in election service, and the biggest changes that you've seen in terms of behavior of voters?
Well, as far as voters, and I speak specifically about Clark County, although there are other jurisdictions who are doing things similar to us, we were leaders in the early voting program. So when we started back in the 90s, we were looking to copy what they were doing in the state of Texas with early voting, but we did it exponentially here. We started some very unique ways of providing services to voters, grocery stores, as you mentioned. Right. We're in shopping malls. As the community was growing, we had to develop a way, if we were going to grow the program, to get out into the suburbs. And so I created the mobile trailer program.
Tell us about that.
Well, we have a mobile trailer that's basically a horse trailer that we tow around with a big truck. And that gives us the ability to just find a hard surface so that we can provide ADA accessibility. And through wireless connectivity and generator power, we're able to get that voting out in areas where we normally wouldn't. Because as you know, when the community grew here in Clark County, the residential area was exponential, but there was no library, no grocery store, no mall, nothing in the area where we could have a room where we could get in and vote. So that was really key to us continuing to grow. And in actuality, with our construction trailers, which are now tents, and mobile trailers, we process over 100,000 voters in those facilities in a big election, a presidential election. So that was one of the, not the reason, but one of the reasons why we were able to continue to expand the early voting program to the point where 65% of voters show up and vote early, which is good for the voter, good for the taxpayer, because we can do it efficiently that way and provide more access.
And something that one of the biggest areas of information on your website too is you can find out so much about the candidates, their campaign disclosures, who's doing what, but you can also find out, get the tally of who's been out there, how many people have voted, and just what's going on a daily basis, if you want to track what the results are for early voting.
Yes, we have real-time information available through the early voting program, and also we release turnout every night. So we try to be as transparent as we possibly can be, and there are several members of the voting community that track everything we do, and when they have questions related to the numbers, they call me and I'm able to answer those questions. Being transparent is important because it upholds the integrity of the cycle when you're able to communicate to the general public and they can see it on a daily basis what the activity is. So,
biggest changes in voters?
I would say the biggest changes, and this would be on a national level, the move to vote centers, which is, vote center is basically, and it's what we're introducing this year, Clark County, countywide. If you live in one of the cities, you've actually experienced vote centers. It's the same as early voting, but on election day. Okay. So you can go to any polling place on election day now and vote your ballot because they're available everywhere. Whether you're in Mesquite, Indian Springs, Laughlin, Boulder City, it doesn't matter. instead of one polling place on election day, you have 172 sites to choose from.
Wow,
So,
I love that. I love that.
it's brand new to us, so there are some wrinkles to work out as far as support, because it's complicated supporting that many sites with the connectivity that's involved. But we've worked hard, and we're very excited to roll it out this cycle.
Let's talk about the things that you can and cannot do at polling places, at voting centers. Why? There are certain things that especially members of the media can't do. As a reporter, I know I was always trying to get that soundbite from somebody in
Sure.
the line, but you can't go in, and you can't, and especially in this time of selfies. Are you concerned about protecting the integrity of the actual casting of ballots?
Well, that's always one of our concerns, and we work hard to make sure that we guard that at all costs. As far as the voter is concerned, no, it's not something that's acceptable for them to go in and take snapshots of the voting or the machine, for good reason. I mean, anybody could take that information and try to get some type of compensation for saying I did this or I did that, although it wouldn't be the case, because if they take a snapshot of the voting machine, they could still make a change after they took a snapshot and make other choices. But that's one thing that we don't encourage voters to do, is take pictures, and it's not allowed.
Is there a way that you can track that?
Well, our poll workers are trained to monitor what's going on in the polling place, and if they see somebody preparing to do anything like that, our monitors will walk up and let them know that that's not something you should be doing in the polling place. As far as media, we like for the media to be out getting information. The only thing that we always caution them about is these are private property owners.
I was thinking about that when I read that. I just never thought about that. It's private property.
So
These grocery stores and the malls, and they belong to the people who actually are doing business there.
That's correct, and so they need to notify us. And of course, we reach out to the property owner and make sure that they're comfortable with them being there. And once that's okay, we don't want them to take any pictures or put any cameras on people who are uncomfortable being on camera, and obviously not focusing on the actual voter screen. But we get a lot of interviews there at the polling place, and those sites that allow us to be there, we welcome the media being there.
Right.
And I'm glad you brought that issue up, because there's another thing that it's very important for the candidates to pay attention to. There's a state law in place now that, or has been for some time, just because a private property owner allows us to use that site doesn't mean that they lose their rights as private property owners. So during the early voting period, they can designate that electioneering is not allowed. And so candidates are able to go to our website. We have a listing of all the early voting sites and whether they allow it or don't allow it. If it's a public facility, that's a no-brainer. We can't disallow anybody on a public property from electioneering 100 feet away from the door. But if it's not, if it's private property and they've indicated that you can't electioneer, then that means that petitioners nor candidates can be on the property electioneering, and they need to be aware of that.
Do you think that there is does the public have a perception of what electioneering is? Because I know one year, it was kind of a tumultuous year, and there was just a lot of petitions going on, and Metro had to be called out to one of the sites because people started fighting in the line and that type of thing, and did not even understand, and I didn't realize that until I saw your website, that that's private property. I think I had the perception that because it was a voting place, anybody could be there, and I think a lot of the people who were in line, who were getting into it with each other, they had that perception too until Metro got there.
Yes, that's correct. So there are rules in place. So electioneering can only take place where the private property owner allows that to happen.
Do they have to notify you?
No, they don't.
Okay.
No, they don't. As long as it's a site that allows the electioneering, as long as they're 100 feet away, our poll workers are instructed to measure from the entrance to the facility 100 feet away, and we place distance markers out in the parking lot so that we can show them exactly where they can be. Now, sometimes we get into a little argument with people, because if 100 feet is right in the middle of a driveway, we don't want anybody getting run over, so we have to go a little bit further than the 100 feet to make sure that they're safe in doing what they're going to do.
Right.
But it's an issue we deal with, and most candidates are they follow the rules. Once we indicate to them. Some of them are unaware, but once we make them aware, they usually follow the rules.
As someone who's been in the business for quite some time, and I don't want to put you on the spot about this, but what election cycle for you was the most challenging?
My first one.
Yeah? How come?
Well, I was completely unaware of exactly what an election was all about, so I was amazed, as most people are who come in either work the polls or come on as a temporary worker to help us support voting. They, after the election, are amazed. They had no idea. I wish I had a dime for every time somebody asked me, what do you do when there's no election?
And what do you do when there's no election?
We're busy year-round. There's work to do maintaining the equipment. We're always looking for new sites to vote at. We have federal requirements for identifying sites and making sure they're ADA compliant. Not to mention the voter registration doesn't stop because there's no election. Right. We get voter registrations from DMV agencies. That's full-time work year-round. So we stay plenty busy.
And especially here in such a vibrant community like Southern Nevada, we have people moving from other places. What are the things that they need to look for if somebody has moved, let's say from just California, because everybody's moved here from California. What do they need to do if they want to register to vote in Nevada?
Well, in Nevada, most of them are going to go to DMV and go ahead and get their new driver's license in the state of Nevada. That's a trusted agency where they service voters. So at that time, they can take advantage of registering to vote. If they choose not to do it at that time, once they get their Nevada driver's license, they can do it in their living room online. As long as they have a Nevada driver's license, it's as easy as that. Or there are several nonprofit agencies and community partners that we work with that get out into the community at fairs, events, all over the county, and we'll provide a field registrar to go, or sometimes they just volunteer to register people to vote. So there's plenty of opportunity for people.
Big push now because, and again, not to put you on the spot on any sort of political leanings, but there's so much, thanks to social media, so much sharing, let's call it, of people's discomfort or support for anything that's going on right now. Do you find that that's making a major impact on your business?
I would say, as far as social media is concerned, it's the bad information that goes out that has a serious impact on us. Everybody sees the news and what's going on with the tampering with elections coming from countries outside of the United States. Cybersecurity has become a very serious issue for us that we're working hard to prevent at the federal, state, and local level. But I think it creates a challenge for us because the information is so easily available to folks, and when the bad message or incorrect message gets out, it takes opportunities like this for me to get out and reach out to the general public to express to them exactly what the good information is and what they need to know and pay attention to.
Something I saw too was, maybe this is incremental, you letting people know that and also telling them what to do to protect their confidentiality when it comes to information that they have to put out when they want to vote.
Yes, every voter has the opportunity to request that their information be held confidential. There's a form on our website that they can utilize, or they can email me personally and ask for their record to be kept confidential, which means that their address and telephone number that they provided will not be released to the general public. But until they do that, all of that information is public, and it's as simple as going to my website and downloading the voter registration list, which is available to anybody.
Yeah.
But information, and it's important that voters understand this, there's some information that's confidential all the time.
Right, like your Social Security number.
Your Social Security number, your Nevada driver's license,
right.
Your email address.
Right.
All of that is always confidential, and we don't release that to anybody. We get a lot of calls at election time with people who are assuming that people got information from us, and they lose track of the fact that there are agencies that go through commercial groups that collect lists of names, demographic information for commercial use, and that's not necessarily correct information as far as voters are concerned, but they don't indicate in their mailers or in whatever communication they use to send out to people that it's not election information, and they assume it is.
One of my biggest resources as a reporter always was the Clark County Assessor's website.
Yes.
I told people, you can find out where almost anybody lives unless they have a trust or they've found ways to layer it and hide it. So I love it when I get phone calls from people, and it depends on what name they use. And is so-and-so there? You went to the website, didn't you? But you can't blame it, because now in this social media crazed society we live in, we'll give out our private information to Amazon, but then we'll get mad when somebody finds that information and uses it to call us for something.
Yes, that's exactly right. And so it's always a challenge to deal with. And there are groups out there on a national level that are trying to do good work for the voters, but the manner in which they go about doing it aren't always the best ways. And I'll give you an example. There's a particular group that takes the information provided from the Nevada Secretary of State on people who are possibly eligible to vote but aren't currently registered. If they ran that list by the clerks and the registrars and let us run it through their database, we could tell them, okay, this information is correct. You should reach out to this person. But this person is registered, and if you send them information encouraging them to register, they're going to think that we somehow lost their information or deleted them for some reason that we shouldn't have, and that's not the case. So for all voters who receive information in the mail, anything that goes out from the election department has the election department logo. And that's approved through the U.S. Postal Service. If it doesn't have that insignia on there, then they shouldn't assume that it came from our office.
And if they do have any questions, you know, it's a phone call or an email away. I mean, just go ahead and don't sit at home and make assumptions that, you know, the Clark County Registrar is coming after me. Give us a call and let us know what the concerns are.
Or, with the beauty of our website and the information that we put out there, go to Registered Services. You can do that in the comfort of your home. Log in, check your voter information. That is information that is accurate and real time. So you can verify on your own that you are in the system and actively registered. You don't even have to call us. Not that we don't want you to call. If you want to call, give us a call.
How do you welcome the challenges of this new digital age? Where do you see it going past your new equipment that you're bringing online?
Well, technology is fantastic when it works. So we work hard with our staff to make sure that all of our equipment is properly functioning, and we're very fortunate to work with two of the best vendors in the country who provide our electronic poll book and our voting machines. We work hard to make sure that's the case. As far as what's available in the future, you just don't know. You and I can think back to when we were kids and look at the quantum leap that's happened.
Amazing.
From what we did when we were kids and what's happening now with the young youth and their phones and everything that's available to them. It's amazing. So it's exciting to think what might be available in the future for voters, but I think that the current technology we're using is one of the best systems that we could be using.
Does the technology bring more younger voters into the system? We were talking about that before the show, of getting millennials, and I hate that word. Somebody come up with a new word. First of all, I can't even pronounce millennials, but it's just become so cliche. It's like Generation X. Let's move on. Is it encouraging for the kids who've grown up with cell phones in their hands? I mean, I love it when I'm driving. I was driving down the street and drove past this restaurant. The entire family, they were in line for dinner for Memorial Day. They're all standing in line together, and everybody's on their phone. Even to the youngest kid, they're all on their phones. So they weren't talking to each other. We mentioned that earlier about social interaction, but they were on their phones. And I've just in the last maybe 5 years, how much more I use my phone. So I panicked the other day. I thought, I've lost my phone. And thank goodness it just fell out of my purse and onto the passenger side. But that was 30 seconds of my life I'm never going to get back.
Panic, right? Sure.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that so much we don't is on our phones. So is that encouraging to you that maybe we've got this generation of folks who are growing up? It'll be easier to vote on their phones than it will even to go to a polling place, to go to a voting center. And you talk about cybersecurity. That's the half chicken and the egg there on whether it's good or not.
Like I said, technology is great when you can ensure that the integrity of your process is upheld. I personally, it's very hard. I mean, you look at federal agencies, the Department of Defense, the CIA. People are consistently attacking those systems, and they have top-notch people who are working on keeping those people out. You have over 8,000 jurisdictions in the United States. If we put it online, there would definitely be a concern about our ability to protect people's vote as it's coming through electronically that way. So I very much, at this time, prefer the type of system that we use where a voter can come in one-on-one and have an interaction with a machine. That machine is completely isolated from any network or anything online. So we've got it in a particular area where we can work to protect the security of that system. Once you put it online, that's very difficult to do. And any federal agent that's familiar with cybersecurity will tell you the same thing. So the system that we use currently, I think, allows us to do many things to protect the integrity of the process. But all of that other thing, as far as social media, making the information available to them. So our website, we went through a huge effort, and our central IT helped us tremendously to make sure that all of that is mobile friendly, because not everybody looks at these things on their computer. I mean, not many do. Everybody's got their phone, and so
well, and I'm one of like the last holdouts in my social group, so I've got the 5S, which is so tiny, but I was just amazed at how easily the website is laid out. You can click on it. It's not like you have to go and try to get to it, and then it filled the screen. It wasn't like half of it was off the screen. I hate those. I mean, those sites where you have to keep going this way to try to get the whole thing. But yours is right there, easy to look at, and you can pick what you want, but it fills the screen.
Credit to our central IT, who has done work to make sure that all of our stuff is available to those folks mobile friendly. So whether they're looking at it on their iPad or their iPhone or their Samsung or whatever technology they're using, the fact that it's mobile friendly allows them to do that. And so
can you track usage during the early voting period, during the election cycle, like who's online and how many people are accessing your program?
We do have Google tools that allow us to get a count, and after the election we normally run that just to see, compare it to previous years. It stays very busy, and especially on election night now, those people who are accessing our website to see the voter information. Yes, it's amazing to see how many people are using that, and not just in Clark County, but all over the country.
Yeah. I am so proud to know that we have been here at Clark County innovators, because until you said that, because I grew up with early voting, I don't know any other time. You've always gone to a grocery store and just done it and just got out of the way. One year I missed for whatever reason, I'm not going to explain, and I actually had to go. Back in the day, we had to go to a polling site and stand in line, and it was hot. I thought, oh, this will never happen again. It's going to be me in the grocery store in the air conditioning with my grocery cart with me. I will never miss this again. It's just always been so easy, and until you brought that up, I just took it for granted. And to find out that we were leaders among the groups who were really pioneering this way of getting people to the ballot box.
Yes, we were. And there were other jurisdictions who were opening up with early voting, but we specialized it in the type of facilities that we went to go use, with the grocery stores, the malls. It's like business. You want to go where people are. Where do they eat? Where do they play? Where do they do their shopping? And that's a model that we use. And so it's been successful, and we hope we can continue to do that.
Who started that? What was the motivation behind that? It's like, how do we get it out there? I never would have thought as a child that we would have more than 2 million people here in this valley. I mean, Las Vegas was this dusty, terrible place where to get from Nellis Air Force Base to where I live now was just like going down the Sahara Desert. There was nothing happening between Nellis and there was no such thing as Centennial Hills back then. But who were the leaders who said, you know what, we need to come up with a system that engages this very diverse and growing community?
Well, I think there were a combination of things that happened back in the mid-90s. Number one, we hired a new registrar of voters. Her name was Catherine Ferguson, who came from the state of Texas. So she was familiar with what Texas was doing in order to bring early voting about. Then she came here, and we had a very supportive group of county administrators, Pat Shalmy back then, and the people who replaced him, as well as commissioners who provided the support and the financing that we need to make the things happen, to make it a reality. And so it started there, and we just continued to grow.
I love it because, again, taking things for granted, there wasn't some sort of big community campaign or PSAs or anything, any promotion that we're making this change. The change just happened. So for those of us who grew up here, it was just like, it's always been the Las Vegas Strip, it's always been downtown, it's always been early voting. I didn't know that there was a time when there wasn't early voting, when you couldn't go grocery shopping at the same time.
Yes, there was. Yes, I remember it. We've come a long way.
We've come a very, very long way. Yeah. Well, thank you for being on our show today, and thank you for getting us kind of up to speed on what's going on out there. Folks, you still have some time.
Plenty of time.
And that's the date for the general election, too, because that's something the candidates always talk about, primaries, because it gives them a benchmark to look at what they need to do to win if they want to in the general election. But you still got time to be part of the process.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
If you're not registered for the primary, it's okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead and register to vote, and you will be eligible for the general. We want you to participate. And it's as easy as going online.
Yeah.
So take advantage of it.
And you also have early voting at that period too. So
Yes.
it's not like, this is you have to show up at a certain date in June.
No.
You still have that window of time
2 weeks,
to do
14
your grocery
days.
shopping and buy your dog food.
Yes.
Thank you very much. You've had Joe Gloria from the Clark County Registrar of Voters here to talk about early voting. And, folks, you've got plenty of time. And even if you miss this window, you still have time for the general election. And if you have any questions, I cannot sing the praises of this website enough. If I am frustrated by a website, I will go away and I will not come back. I got on it and I was like, ooh, there was stuff I wasn't even going to look for. I thought, well, let me just see what that looks like. So if you're one of those geeky people like me and you just really want the information, it's all there and it's very accessible.
Thank you for saying so. We work hard to keep it that way.
Yeah, thank you very much. We're going to be back in just a few moments with Live Las Vegas with Rikki Cheese. My next guest is going to talk about, again, a community need. We needed early voting to get people out and get involved in the civic process, but would you believe that there is a bottled water crisis in Clark County? And a lot of people are stepping up to the plate to make that go away. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Crazy Terry here with your car care tip of the day. So it's not a bad idea every now and then to check your battery. If you don't know how to do it, have somebody check it for you. Just a visual inspection can tell you a lot about your battery. So as we can see here, this battery's got a hold down. It's nice and tight. The cables are on. They don't look bad. We've got a cover. We don't see any corrosion. Everything's kind of tight, looking good. A little bit of dirt, that's normal, but nothing's leaking. No real cause for alarm here. So that's a good sign. Doesn't mean it's good, but at least visually we know that it's intact. Okay, so we're looking at a battery here that shows signs of corrosion. We want to test that battery to make sure it's good. Usually when they're getting like this, there's going to be a problem, leaking some acid at the top. We ran the test and we find out it has 396 cold cranking amps, but the battery requires 650. So it's just not enough. The battery is going to go soon. Better to know now than later. Okay, so the benefits of checking the cable is because this cable's rotted out. What we'll find is this is the problem, not the battery. So it'll save you from buying a battery, still having the no start, only to find out that it's a cable. This type of corrosion is common in diesels. Okay, so we're getting ready to jump the car, but we have to have some battery cables. And we have to check those too before we hook them up to the battery. So here we have our standard set of battery cables. We just look them over, see if the ends are frayed, if everything's connected all right. Everything looks good here. Wouldn't hurt to check the rest of the cable just to make sure the dog didn't get it and chew it up. We have red and black. Red's positive, black's negative. You always want to hook the positive up first and then the negative. And I'll show you how that's done right now. Keep these off to the side so they're not touching each other. Hook up your positive. You can find that right here by the plus sign, the negative sign. Plus is positive, red. Make sure that's securely hooked up. Keeping these away from each other. Hook up your negative cable. Just got to fight it on there. Figure out a way to get it. Wiggle it a little bit so it ensures a good connection. Now you're transferring voltage. If I hit these two together, we're going to spark. Kind of want to avoid that. Won't kill you. Kind of fun. A lot of people think if they can turn the headlights on, the battery's fine. That's not always the case. It takes very little amperage to turn a light on, but it takes a lot of amperage to start the starter. I recommend checking the charging system every oil change. At Sun Valley Automotive, there's never a charge for that. This is Crazy Terry with your car care tip of the day.
Welcome back to Live Las Vegas with Rikki Cheese, and my guest today is here to talk about something that I didn't even realize was a real crisis here in Southern Nevada. This is Dawn Weir. She is the founder of The Giving Water. It's a new nonprofit. When she first contacted me to talk about this nonprofit, I poo-pooed her. This was some time ago. I said, no, I don't think it's a big deal. And then SOS Radio did a bottled water drive for the Las Vegas Rescue Mission that just exploded because people need water. And we've become so dependent on bottled water. And there's just a push to get it out to different organizations and everything else. And I have to apologize to Dawn. I had no idea. Leslie Rogers of the Salvation Army was on just a week ago, and she was like, oh, yeah, Rikki, you just missed the boat on that one. It's like really, really big. So what made you decide to found the Giving Water?
Well, that started with my home life.
Okay.
I'm a single parent. I was raised by a single parent. My son wanted to go on a mission, and it was quite expensive for me at that time in my life. And I found myself saying the same things that my mom said to me. We'll have to give up this, we'll have to sacrifice this, but we can make it work. And of course, I made it work.
Right.
And then I started thinking, I was like, this cannot continue in my family's DNA or mine anymore. So I came up with this wonderful idea. You know, they say to predict the future, you have to create it.
Right.
And that is what the Giving Water is doing. We're creating a wave of opportunity in the community, so the community can give without sacrifice or burden.
Right.
And
well, that's what I saw with the bottled water drive, and that's when I reached out to you, because there I am driving, I'm listening to SOS every day, all day long, and all these people are calling in, and a lot of there were some big givers, but most of their donations were coming from people who, like, they were in Costco, and so they decided to just buy, you know, some bottled water and take it down to the mission, or just give a small donation to make sure that people who needed the water had it. And when we first talked about this, you were really focusing on veterans.
Yes.
And the home, and so the homeless thing kind of came as an after that, but it just even today with the guests, my two guests on this show, what was the first thing we said when you came in? Would you like some water?
Yes. Because
everybody's riding around. I don't care how much water you have in your car. At some point, you're going to run out, but we have the wherewithal to get more bottled water. If you're talking about groups of people who are on financial constraints, this is something that you don't want somebody to have to not have water. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the necessity. It's what you're made of.
Yeah. So what are you hearing from people who are just, when they first hear about your program, what is do you run into skeptics like myself, or do you run into people who say, oh, this is the best thing that happened?
Both.
Okay.
A little of each. And with a new idea, you're going to come across that. And it doesn't matter what your new idea is about, anything new, it takes change and getting people used to it.
Yeah.
So what I do is I bring together businesses, charities, and individuals on a label of the Giving Water.
Okay.
And then I attach that to a community charitable event. So the public can then come out and purchase their bottled water needs for their favorite charity. And give without sacrifice and burden. Because bottled water's in most people's budget. Like you said, they were shopping at Costco or Sam's or Walmart.
Wherever.
They were a consumer of bottled water. Well, with the Giving Water holding that, you're going to be known as a giver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Instead of a smart person drinking smart water.
Right.
Or, you know, drinking one from the local consumers.
Right. Well, I'm amazed when I go into, especially convenience stores now, how many different labels or products involve water.
Right.
And I think, how do people make their choices? I mean, when you're looking at all of these different bottles, and I know what I choose, I've got to have a bottle. Like, what I love about your bottle, I don't want to move it because it'll get in the way of our background, but it's sturdy. Some of the bottled water products are just really crumply, and I have big dogs. So what happens is I'll put it in the console between us, and all of a sudden I hear either a crunch or the bottle disappears and it's become roadkill in the back of my vehicle. So I love that your product it's sturdy and it's reusable. I mean, that's something that people need to think about. You can recycle bottles, but a sturdy bottle can last you for a while.
Correct. And the Giving Water will have a recycling program with the caps. Of course,
Neat.
we encourage recycling, but you can take the caps into the sponsors on the water, and they'll be giving you discounts for giving back to the community.
Right, yeah.
So a full circle of giving, recycling, and making sure that the community has what they need.
Right. Raising awareness. Part of your program, too, is getting the word out, because I know I don't drink enough water. I mean, I've got to see somebody else drinking water, then I'll say, oh, how much water have I consumed today? So it's also, in terms of health benefits, it's something that you're really, really pushing to let people know. It's not just a matter of getting your label on the bottle. It's also training people to take care of themselves.
Right, and drink water. And you talk about taking care of yourself. You take care of yourself in so many different ways. You have your health, you have your mental, and you have your spiritual. And I really think that the giving water touches each of these and will fill you up on each of these. Because you're giving to your favorite charity, you're creating an abundance in your life with funds that you now have to spend on the sponsors that are enabling you to give. The charities receive funds where they did not think it was possible. And the whole community is happy and hydrating.
When we had Bob Bird from Las Vegas Rescue Mission, we also had Stacy from Shade Tree, and Leslie from the Salvation Army. And I really wish if I could have done it all over again, I would have had all three of them on the show at the same time, because that was a big thing for all three of them. For the Las Vegas Rescue Mission and the Salvation Army in particular, they spend so much money on bottled water. To get donated bottled water makes a big difference in their bottom line. I mean, that's money they don't have to spend on that, because now they've got, this outpouring of support from the community, and it's a big deal.
It is a big deal, and it makes you feel good when you give. And now with the giving water, you'll be able to take the bottle home with you, see the sponsors that enabled you to give for your favorite charity, and you're going to feel good about it. Every time you take a drink, you feel good, and then you look at who enabled you to give, you're going to feel great. And then you take the cap back into those businesses, and they reward you with a discount, and then the giving water will reward them for giving the caps back to us. We'll in them give them money back also.
Oh, my viewers know there's no shame in my game when it comes to apologizing to folks who I poo-pooed in the beginning to say I was so wrong. So thank you for going past that, because I think a lot of these different programs, they get quashed by folks like me who say, I don't know, I haven't heard about that. And then we find out later that, this was a legitimate need. And congratulations to you keeping on and continuing to go and say, no, this is important, not just to you, but for the entire community. And we're seeing that outpouring of support on any level. Here I think in Southern Nevada, all you have to do is tell people that there's a need, and somebody's going to come out of the woodwork and try to find a way to meet that need. And are you running? Who are the folks who are kind of giving you support and aren't poo-pooing you right away like I did?
Oh, well, first don't think about it that way, because it's new ideas.
Sure.
And everybody has new ideas and concepts. And Las Vegas Auto Repair and Service.
Wow.
Of course, right now, you need to have your cars checked. You can reach...
And have water in your car. I can't believe how many people break down. They don't have water in your car. I keep it in my trunk. Just make sure you just have maybe a 6-pack or whatever, because you never know.
I think a gallon.
Yeah.
I think everybody should keep a gallon of water. And if it gets hot, it doesn't matter. It's still wet, and your body just processes it faster.
Yeah. Is it a hard sell to business owners, or do they get it right away?
Some do, some don't. This is about more than just bottled water.
Right.
This is about rebranding your company in the community as a company that steps up and gives to the community and enables it to give. And that's what I've found is the clincher for the companies. Donations start anywhere from $1,000 and go up. The bigger the donation, the more water and the bigger your logo is on the bottle. So the more you're going to stand out as a giver in the community.
I wanted just to digress just a little bit, kind of go off track, because I've known Dawn for a while. I've seen her transform herself on many different levels, but one of the things that she's also doing now, in addition to the Giving Water, the Giving Revolution, you are starting a stand-up career.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, tell us about that.
I love doing stand-up. Thank you so much.
Yes,
I didn't even think about that.
You just had your debut. Was it your debut show at the Westin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
really close
fun.
to the Las Vegas Strip.
Yeah,
she's inching
just
her way.
2 blocks off.
There you go. How did it go?
It was really fun. It was very great. Friends came out. Some people that I met just days before showed up.
Right.
My humor is very adult oriented, very grown up, very real to life.
Well, what made you decide to go into stand-up comedy? I mean, I hear from folks who are involved in it, that's a tough business.
It is something I've wanted to do since Roseanne.
Really?
Since I was a kid, I used to practice doing standing Eddie Murphy, and going and seeing his concert in the red leather. Oh,
that iconic movie. Oh my gosh.
Oh, I must have seen it like 10 times.
Right.
No, I've just always loved comedy and making people laugh, and giving laughter is one of the best things you can do.
How do you find the time to balance? Because as a single mom, so you've got this business going and you've got your stand-up career going. When do you breathe?
I really, when I sleep. Which is about 3 hours a night.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's really, I love doing stand-up. It takes me way outside of my box. And it's fun. Your brain fires on all cylinders because you've got to read the audience. You've got to think about what's coming up. What did you just say? Can you relate it? Did I go off track? Can I bring it back? Can I finish it? It's very fun. It's a rush I never imagined. It's really fun.
Just recently I was reading a book, and there's a whole chapter in the science of comedy and how the really, like you mentioned Eddie Murphy, how and Roseanne, the really successful comics have not a shtick, but they've got something that people recognize, and if they even hear it, the folks already start laughing. Those endorphins start flying because they know that the fun is coming.
Yeah. Well, I think mine is about being a single mom and out in the dating world, talking about relationships again, and how we interact on a human level is always hysterical. And how you converse with the opposite sex or the same sex and compete with them for no reason at all. I find very humorous.
What is your big dream for your stand-up career, and what's your big dream for, of course, the Giving Water?
My stand-up career, I am going to do Dirty at 12:30.
Ooh, like that.
I want to do Dirty at 12:30. I want to show them that the women can get down.
Right, yeah.
For the Giving Water, wow, that's a big one. I want everybody to be able to give freely without burden or sacrifice. I want charities to have funds where they didn't think it was possible.
Right.
I want the businesses to do more than spend money on a billboard or a magazine. I want their advertising and getting out what they do to mean something to the community, and be a part of the community, and be a mini billboard in their hand, where you make them feel good with every drink. And you make them feel good because they just gave. And why did they give? Because of you. And now they have more money to spend on you. So it's a full circle. And that's just what I want. I want you to go down the road, and if you're carrying a bottle from Walmart or Smart Water or Avion or Fuji, you're known as a consumer. Whereas if you have the Giving Water, you're known as a giver. and someone that cares about the community.
And wants to give back, and wants to give back on any level, because you
Right.
can buy one bottle of water or you can buy a pallet. I mean, it's whatever your budget can afford, but it's also whatever your heart can afford.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Setting up different distributions. It appears we're going to be with the Elks Lodge.
Fantastic.
So you can stop by the Elks Lodges and pick up water. We're talking to some gyms in town. So
Great.
when you go to the gym, you're working out, you're thirsty, you can give back. You can give a donation for a bottle of water.
I think that's fantastic.
You can stop by some veterans places and put cases in your car. $5 and get 10 cases, whatever your need is. $20 and get 1 case.
Right.
It's, you give what you want freely and without burden or sacrifice.
I love that. I love
Like
that.
me too.
Yeah.
And it enables you to do so much more in the community.
And it's a tiny thing, like I said, with the bottled water drives at SOS radio station, to listen to these folks. I mean, one lady could only bring in just a couple bottles, but they didn't say you have to bring in a certain amount. They're like, what can you afford? What do you want to do? We'll take 1 bottle if that's all you've got, and build on that, because it's all about your heart. It's all about giving back, and it's all about, as you said, for the businesses and for the charities, the different organizations, giving people, basically a walking billboard in your hand.
Right.
If you're going to give it to like CORE, whatever that CORE thing is, it took me a while because it's really a nicely designed bottle. If you look at it from a distance, it looks like it's icy.
Right.
No, it's just the frosting on it. So why not do a logo for businesses here in town? Why are we giving it to somebody who's not even here?
Right. And charities, and your logo will float on a sea of positive words. It's a 3D label, and then excuse me, on the back of the label will be all your information.
That's fantastic.
Your contact information. I'm also excited to say I'm working with a company right now to make the first talking water label.
Okay,
so
we are out of time for this show. So you heard it here first. The talking water bottle.
yes, the giving water that
giving-
talks to you and lets you know who your sponsors and charities are that you're giving to.
That's for another show. I'm not going to poo-poo it, because I could be just totally wrong once again. So we're going to have Don back,
That'd
of
be
course.
great.
Yeah, so we're going to have Joe, Gloria, the Clark County Registrar of Voters, again on the show to talk about these different programs that are just making a difference in the community and how you can get involved. Thank you for being with us this week on Live Las Vegas with the Rikki Cheese. And of course, you can go to your website really quickly.
thegiving-water.org or thegivingwater.com.
Okay. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time right here on Live Las Vegas with Rikki Cheese.